What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of my R&B review. This is your boy Reg here, and the album that I'm going to be talking about today, this album that you probably don't see a review of every day, is Rick James' third studio album, Fired Up, released in 1979 under Motown. Producers include Rick James and Levi Ruffin and shit like that. Yeah, fuck it, okay. So, only I think the single the album was known for was the only single actually was Love Gun. Alright, so I already talked about Rick James' first two albums, which was Come Get It, which was a Come Get It, and Bustin' Out, which were both classics in my personal opinion. And so, like I mentioned, right after the release of Bustin' Out, he had begun working with Tina Marie. And Tina Marie had just dropped the what's the album? Wild and Peaceful album, her first album on Motown in 1979. I'm gonna definitely do a review on that album very soon, actually. So I'm not gonna speak too much on that album. But yeah, so Rick James and Tina, they were top of the charts at that time, and they also, like you guys know, had a relation going on and shit. So also around this time, he had won like a horn section, when he was torn, and so he that's when he formed like the punk funk horns, which was Danny Linnell, then Danny Linnell, Cliff, and John Irving and shit like that. Yeah. So they were touring around. They were touring. That's when they recorded this album, and this album was actually recorded in 13 days, actually. And around this time, he was simultaneously working on the Stone City Band album that came out in '79. I've seen that album in stores actually recently. I'll probably get it. I'll probably get it pretty soon. I want my money straight, but yeah. All right. So this is the album cover right here. This is like a famous picture of Rick James. You guys have probably seen this like I think it was on the anthology compilation actually. Posters, t-shirts. I even have a fucking t-shirt of Rick James Fired Up. I should have worn that t-shirt actually when reviewing this album. And I think I've worn it a couple of times before, you guys should know, but I was doing laundry and shit, so it is what it is. So yeah, picture of Rick James right there, posing, chilling. Yeah, just him and the girls and shit. Alright, perfect. So yeah, like with most Rick James albums, they're relatively, short. Well, in today's R&B standards, it's like the album is shorter than what it is, but it's a standard length and shit like that. But yeah, track number one, "Fire It Up." That's a pretty cool song. Pretty cool way to begin the album and shit like that. Love the horns on that joint. Track number two, which is playing in the background. Excuse me, Love Gun. Love Gun. That song was okay. It sounds pretty atypical, sounds pretty atypical, they'll make a song, a gun, love, and shit like that. I don't know, it just never really do anything for me, to be real. Track number three, Loving You Is a Pleasure. Oh, I didn't like this song. I felt like it was a bit too disco-esque, if you ask me. I don't know, just that doom 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 doom. Cause by that time, like I've mentioned on this channel a couple of times, but a lot of R&B cats, they were kind of going for that disco sound and shit like that. And at sometimes it was good, sometimes it was good. A perfect example would be when I reviewed the Earth, Wind, and Fire album. I Am, very underrated album if you ask me. But at some time it would just be kind of cheesy, and the instrumentation was tight as always, but it was just kind of a little forced if you ask me. But track number 4, Love in the Night. When it comes to Rick James and shit, the ballads are usually at times some of the highlights of the album. And I felt like Love in the Night, while vocally it was good, it was kind of forced if you ask me. But I don't know, it was kind of forced. It was like something you kind of heard before and shit like that. But yeah, I didn't even like that. I didn't like that song. I kind of felt it was a bit too sentimental. The beat was kind of dry, if you ask me. Then, as we get to like the latter half, you get into "Come Into My Life." In my opinion, this is like my favorite song off this album. I felt like he was definitely a bit more comfortable. It felt more like a Rick James song, like a traditional Rick James song, if you ask me. I love the lyric when he's like, what do you say? He said some shit like, yeah. Don't you know that I'm the one knocking on your door, begging you for more? Come on, baby, say that. Come into my life. Then he says, come here, woman. Come here, woman. COME. Tell me how you like to funk. And you notice I just said funk and shit like that, you know. Because, like I said, a lot of R&B cats and shit, you know, a lot of singers, they would like to say, you know, funk you and shit like that. But you guys would know what it meant and shit like that. So, yeah. Yeah, so, you know, Rick James was just in his, like, Rick James was on his player shit on this one. Very dope song. One of the few highlights on this album. Then we get to Stormy Love, which is like a spoken word kind of interlude, which in a way is kind of reminiscent to Spacey Love from what's the album? The Bustin' Out album. But it then leads to When Love Is Gone, which is like the next ballad off the album. And this was another dope song and shit like that, another dope ballad. The guitar and the saxophone and shit like that was definitely on point, you know. Like, was definitely on point and shit like that. Yeah, they all did their thing. All did their thing on that joint and shit like that. Like, Danny Lamel definitely did his thing on that shit. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so this is not really one of my favorite Rick James albums. And it's kind of crazy too because I really wanted to give this album a chance after two very dope and successful albums and shit. You know, it just, I don't know, I just felt like it was a bit too forced and shit, you know? And, you know, a lot of people always want to make the argument that he likes to make the same album over and over and over again, which that's a statement I highly disagree with, but with this album, I kind of see some traces of rehashment and shit. And even Rick James went on to say that he felt like he didn't put a lot of effort with this album because he said like it got some good reviews at the time and shit like that, you know, standard reviews. It did, I believe it got him gold and shit like that, but you know, he wanted to take his time with it and shit. So that actually spoke volumes to me. Because a lot of people have really asked me lately, well, how come I don't like this album? I don't like this album. I'm like, it's not among my favorites, but yeah. Okay, so, but it's kind of crazy too because despite like what I felt about this album, this is one of the album that really cemented him as like a major force and shit like that, you know. And he would make a drastic change in his next project. Stay tuned on that. But while in the meantime, I'm definitely going to talk about Tina Marie's first 3 albums in the meantime. So y'all stay tuned. Those are going to be some good reviews. Can't miss on those. As usual, this is your boy Reg. Peace.